And now we're moving to the next question, and we'll begin with Doug. Doug, how do you envision the new headquarters fire station when complete?
How do I envision the new fire station when complete? It'll be pretty darn beautiful. It's been controversial to get it birthed, but I believe we're close to realization on it. The original budget the city had proposed was 9.5. I wasn't comfortable with that. I said 8.5 would be a better goal. Turns out we came in about 9 million is what the council agreed to, and by preliminary estimates, it's coming in at 9 million, and we're going to get a lot of value for that money. This is going to not have extravagant uses on it. The committee that I was working on with the city to design this worked really closely with the designers and the fire department to take out all the waste and redundancies in this building. And as I do in my regular thing, by planning and talking, we were able to come up with a station that will be make Janesville proud.
Thank you, Doug. Bill?
I really can't say very much on this because this is involved with a legal matter, but I would, the only thing I can say I think would be appropriate is I'd like to see $4.5 million taken away from it and put toward our streets, and I can leave it as that.
Thank you, Bill. Carol?
Thank you. I understand that we're building a fire station to last for at least 50 years. I think that's the useful life of the building that's planned. I don't think it should be fancy. I don't think it should be extravagant, but it absolutely needs to be functional for the 50 years for which it's planned to last. What does that mean? I would defer to the original plans and what the professionals proposed as far as number of bays and other aspects of the building. So I feel very strongly that the City Council has a responsibility for today. It also has a responsibility for the future, for those, the people who will live here, our children, 50 years from now.
Thank you, Carol. Paul?
Yes, I agree that the fire station should be something that's going to be functional for 50 years, and I don't believe that cutting it back, especially as much as Mr. McCoy suggested, would be the best way for taxpayers' money to be spent on that, because the building would have to be added on to immediately to meet the needs. It is our #1 fire station. I was hoping when I was on the council in 2008 that this process would have been farther along than where it is now. It's been a long time in coming. It really almost needed to be done in 2008, and it just keeps getting more and more expensive. I agree it certainly isn't going to be anything fancy, but again, if you're spending taxpayer money and it's on one of the main drags coming into the city, it can't be just a Quonset hut either. It needs to be functional and something that will draw people when they're coming into town, that we are progressive. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Kay?
I think what I envision with the fire station is a building that is unique and catches people's eye, and they say, wow, even this is even functional as well as interesting. And that kind of thing can make the city more interesting to people. I'm expecting it will last a long time. I live in a house that's older than the 50 years we're talking about, and so buildings can last, and if they're well built and taken care of, and I would expect that to be true with that. And I would hope that it's in a wonderful place in terms of being visible from many sides, and hope that the ambiance around it will be just as attractive as the building.
Thank you, Kay. Sam?
Thank you. Well, as a strong proponent of the fire station for many years, I envision it to be a very functional building, but also I think it should look nice. If we're going to be spending taxpayer money and this building will be there for 50 to 60 plus years, let's have a little pride in what we build. Let's just not build a brick building. Let's have something that we can all rally around and take some civic pride in. The current fire station is 57 years old. It's going to cost about $9 million, as Mr. Markline said, which will cost about the average taxpayer about $26 more per year. I think that's a small price to pay for a new functioning fire station, especially fire station number 1. A few reasons why we're building it. Obviously, 57 years ago, there were no women firefighters. Now there are. We're a much more progressive society. Also, firefighter engines, apparatus have grown. Equipment has changed. But also, too, we've been talking about this for 21 years, and it would have been a lot cheaper 21 years ago. And so the chickens have come home to roost, and it's now time to move forward and finish this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. We're moving on to the next question now, and so we're going to begin with Bill McCoy. The question is this. Approximately 95% of all landlords in Janesville do a very good job of maintaining their rental properties. Small percentages do not, which creates unsafe and unhealthy living conditions to the tenants, as well as unsightly properties for the neighborhood. What would you do to strengthen code compliance with landlords?
Well, I have been around knocking on doors, getting signatures to run for city council, and I have seen some of these homes and some of these apartments. I have seen paint hanging from the ceilings, and I feel sorry for the people. And I've asked them to contact the code department on some of this already. Some of these landlords do not live within the city of Janesville. They live outside of Janesville. We need to corner these people and bring them in and say, hey, you're going to have to fix these. Get them fixed so they are livable, so the people can have livable things where the paint's not going to be falling off the walls and off the ceilings. And I sure would appreciate the code department if they could do something, but also we have another problem other than that with the code department that we need to go back and redo and relook at. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Carol?
Thank you. I think we should have a predictable system of warnings and then action if compliance doesn't occur. Where people live is the center of their lives. It's where children grow up, and they should have the safe, well put together places that they deserve to live in. I would like to see it easier for people to raise issues about the places where they live. I'm not exactly sure how to do that, but tenants should not be afraid to bring complaints to the city. And when they do, then warnings and compliance needs to be enforced.
Thank you, Carol. Paul?
Well, if 95% are doing a good job, I would say that that's good, but it's certainly needs to be 100% because those 5% that are living in some conditions that are pretty terrible. The city can help, again, by doing the code enforcement and making sure that the code is enforced. But I think we can also, in our newsletters and on our websites, somehow try and educate the tenants that there is a place for them to go and that this can be taken care of because we really need to get 100% compliance on some of the living conditions that are out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Kay?
I've been dealing with this issue for the years we've lived in the Fourth Ward and think that we've made some real strides in being able to enforce the ordinances that are already on the books, but there's certainly more work to do. And even as things are being enforced, then there needs to be a good way for if a landlord is not willing to do that, and how do you encourage them in a productive and just way so that they actually do make the changes. One of the things I've heard other cities do is that they have a registration of apartment rentals, and that way the city has a list and they can easily contact owners and don't have to spend a lot of time trying to track down who owns the various properties. So that might be one idea to check out more.
Thank you, Kay. Sam?
Thank you. Actually, several years ago, I proposed a renter's bill of rights, which would have been an ordinance that would have told landlords that they had to give certain information to the renters, how to get a hold of the proper authorities if they had issues. So I think that's one thing that we should review. Second, continuing training with the Janesville Police Department on how to do proper background checks on renters to make sure they're renting to the right folks. But I think another part of it, too, is cracking down on slum landlords, especially landlords who keep having these repetitive patterns of renting to known drug dealers, or once they get kicked out of their apartment, they just pretty much are playing magical chairs and they're just moving them around. We have several ordinances on the books. Let's start using them. I'm really sick and tired of us kind of kicking the can down the road on these slum landlords who are abusing the system. And I think ultimately, well, with repeat drug houses, we have ordinances on the book to ultimately repossess and take property from landlords who are abusing the system. And I think we need to be more aggressive, especially in the 4th Ward and the Look West. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Doug?
I agree with most of what Sam said. We do have ordinances on the books. We have started to get tougher on the slum landlords. We're not there yet, but we're getting better. Like we said, 95% of the landlords are doing a good job. They should be applauded, but the bad ones make it bad for everybody. Our neighborhood services department has a very limited staff. They do the best they can. They do send out warning letters. They are a center for tenant rights. I think if we could find some way to staff them a little bit more, they could do more in informing tenants of their rights. The biggest one will be to reduce the fear of people that are living in these homes, the fear that if they complain that they would be evicted, the fear that if they complain that they will be retaliated against, and that's something that they need to report. The other one is it's a two-way street. We also need to give landlords some tools to protect themselves against tenants that do abuse property and ruin it in pretty bad ways also. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Now we're moving to our next question, and this is a question from the audience. We'll begin with Carol. Carol, the question is, how would you want to engage youth and underserved people in this community if you're on the city council?
This is a situation where I would need to ask the community what it is that they're looking for. I would want to talk to staff and hear the ideas that staff has about serving these communities. I'm a pretty good listener, and I know how to ask questions, and this would be a time when I would need to do that.
Thank you, Carol. Paul?
I guess I'd have to find out what they feel that they're being underserved on. You know, the city is here to provide your main needs, which are streets, garbage pickup, fire, police. There are other things that we can provide too, but some of those things must be provided by private businesses. If the youth think that they need an arcade put in or something like that, you know, that's not something that taxpayer money is probably going to be spent at. We do have the parks. We're now looking at a skate park out on the west side of town. And I guess that question really needs to be answered on what group it is and what they feel that they're being underserved in order to really answer it. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Kay?
Well, we're going to have a lot of listening sessions going on. We're all, as we all say, we want to find out from the people who we're wanting to involve. The other night at the auditions for City Council a week ago, there were several younger adults who had ideas, and I think that certainly is a starting group in terms of getting folks together and trying to understand what needs they see that the city might encourage or help them solve. And so I think that would be a good place to involve some people to get that answer.
Thank you, Kay. Sam?
Thank you. Well, I think a big thing that we can do to engage the youth and underserved communities is to, to get back into the communities. I think we need to hold more listening sessions, more town halls in the distinct neighborhoods, the north side, the west side, south side, Fourth Ward. We could hold them at schools or public buildings, and really go out and engage the community. I think I can attest this. Sometimes it can be intimidating to come to City Hall, to get behind that podium and speak to the council. And so I feel like it's better to get out into the community, sit down at a table and have a casual conversation. I think, too, we're also doing things to engage the youth, and by giving them things to do to stay out of trouble and to stay physically fit. The city right now, we're building a skate park in Bond Park. We're building a splash pad down at Riverside. Palmer Park is still a great place to go. And so I think we have a lot of amenities, and it's about promoting them and also continuing to engage the community in dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Doug?
Thank you. I agree with Kay. We were at the meeting, and there was so much energy and enthusiasm in the room, especially from the young people that applied for the city council position. And my notes on that night said that possibly we could create a youth ad hoc committee that could meet during the year and come up with suggestions of things that could be done that we could either pass on to the private sector and say, this is what the youth is telling us. This is an opportunity for a private entrepreneur to create some things. A common complaint that we hear a lot is there's nothing to do for people in Janesville, especially young people. However, every week there's a ton of activities that are out there that are poorly attended or very little participation. And I think the key is to figure out a way to get these publicized, to get the word out there, and to encourage and word of mouth kids to come out and find these activities and get involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Bill?
Well, why didn't you appoint one of them?
Why not?
You should appoint one of them that was up there, that the young people was up there telling you what to do. And you didn't appoint one of them. That's sorry. So, but anyway, the people that was up there speaking, one of them said that, yeah, he said, we're more of a hippie-style group. We like to go to the bars, and we like to do this and do that. They like to carry on and have fun, dance, and do things in their ways. The younger people, the kids and everything, I used to have a half pipe in my backyard for years, behind my garage. It came from the place out there by the old Walmart. It was an extra one they had. My son bought it by selling newspapers. So we had kids to glory in my backyard. I had the insurance company say, you got to get a note. So the kids in this town need to be asked and talked to and help out because they have been ignored like a lot of the other ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. We're moving to the next question then, and we'll begin with Paul Williams. The question is, public policy often involves issues about which people disagree. Give examples from your past experience where you have worked collegially with people who did not share your views.
Well, sidewalks come to mind, but we've all been there. And I guess, that's always was contentious over the years, and hopefully that's been put to rest. But there were a lot of times that I understood where the people were coming from, and they didn't want a sidewalk. But when you came right down to it, there were areas that they needed to be put in. It is a city, and I have a sidewalk in front of my house, and it does bring the community together. But those were some long meetings, and hopefully from now on, that's been taken care of. All the new developments are getting their sidewalks in, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Paul. Kay?
I'm struggling to think of an example of when I was really at odds with somebody, because it feels like in situations I've been in, we've been able to find things we can agree on and build on that. Whether it was working with, back in Cleveland, I was working with a teen pregnancy program where the different social service agencies had ideas about what they wanted to do, and so we tried to figure out what would be a common way that we could address that. Certainly in our neighborhood, not everybody agrees on what the most important things are, but that's okay. We can each come at it from our own perspective and find some common things. And I guess that's more my experience, is finding that common ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay. Sam?
Thank you. And just a quick rebuttal to Mr. McCoy's comment earlier. I'd like to go on the record as saying I'm the only council member who voted for a young person or for a woman the other night, so I'm very proud of that fact.
Well, you didn't. You weren't the only one.
Okay, well, and Mr. Markline, I stand corrected. Well, I guess there's a situation where, so I think a good situation that I guess I could use experience-wise was the sidewalk task force. I think Mr. Williams made a good point. I was assigned to that task force, which pretty much came up with, you know, the where, why, and how template for sidewalks to go in. I believe it was 22 meetings in the summer of 2012, usually 2 to 3 hours. Several times people wanted to walk out, but we had a compromise model, and the consensus building was essentially the way to move forward. I give a lot of props to Carol Tidwell. She was the chairwoman of that committee, so God bless her. And we were able to make it through. We were able to decide where streets should go, why, and I'm proud of that record. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Doug?
Well, I'm going to talk about the Oak Hill Chapel. I went into that meeting, I talked earlier that things were 60-40 votes. I went into that meeting at the city council 60% convinced that that chapel should be removed. City administration and staff recommended that that chapel be raised. We listened to the audience talk on that one, and there was passion in the room. There was positive attitudes in the room that that chapel could be saved if given some time to come up with a reasonable plan and to do fundraising. My opinion changed during that meeting and switched to the other 40% by listening to them, and I decided to give them a chance. They exceeded our expectations with their fundraising. They hit the deadline. They had a plan of action, and the chapel that you see now is a work in progress, but I think it'll be a jewel in that park, and I think the city worked very well with a public-private fundraising group, and that was a huge success. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Bill?
I got a rebuttal to him, Sam. You didn't appoint him. You didn't appoint a young one. That's what I'm getting at.
Let's go on with this question, please.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. Public policy often involves issues about which people disagree. Give examples from your past experience where you have worked collegially with people who did not share your views.
I just had one. So, the other one is with the fire station. And there again, I can't say a lot of it. We did go out and get signatures. I fought for this country to give the people the right to challenge their government. This petitions was to challenge their own local government to put these 2 ballots on so they could vote on these petitions. And it was turned down by our council and their city attorney. So all I can say is you did them wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Carol?
I've spent my whole career working either as part of a group or helping a group to solve problems. I was a federal mediator for 13 years, and as you probably know, I was dealing with companies and the unions that represented the workers. And there was not only a short-term problem involved, there was a long-term relationship to be considered as well. So one of the first things I learned was how to listen, because very quickly it occurred to me that these people did not know me from a load of snow and had no reason to listen to me until I listened to them. And to me, that's a key part of working collegially with any group. Sam mentioned the Sidewalk Committee. It was a privilege to work with that group of people. They elected me chairperson, I suspect because nobody else wanted to do it. But they came to a good set of decisions. Did everybody like the answer? No. But I think most people did, and I would be happy to talk about the rationale that we used. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.